Today we have Rob Levin, who's a seasoned entrepreneur with over 30 years of experience helping small and mid-sized businesses. He's a co-founder and chairman of Work Better Now, a company connecting US small businesses with top-tier Latin America talent, addressing the talent crisis since 2018. Previously, he founded the New York Enterprise Report, a media company serving over 100,000 business leaders, earning him a national accolade at Journalist of the Year for small businesses. Rob began his career as a CPA and has held leadership roles as CFO, COO, and CEO. He holds a BS in accounting and an MBA, and he's passionate about music and playing the guitar. He lives in the Bronx with his family, and he frequently speaks leveraging talent strategies, delegation to empower small businesses. Just a quick one. I just wanted to say thank you very much for joining me today and being with me on this show. One thing that is really, really important I want to share with you is this show is growing really well, and I'm so proud of it, and I'm so pleased that you're enjoying this content. But if you could please hit the follow and subscribe to this channel, it will really help the channel on its being able to grow and the people that we can have on this show. So please do consider, if you have a moment, please can you hit the subscribe button and the follow button, and I would really appreciate it. Hello, Rob. How are you today?
I'm terrific, Mark. Thanks. How are you?
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is a really, we've touched this outsourcing model before on my show, and that person was looking with the Filipino VAs coming in and like doing very similar to you do, doing multifaceted, multi roles, not just a VA role. But I'm interested, and we'll talk about it in this conversation, about how you've leveraged the Latin America and maybe a little bit more about who you're working with and how you're doing that. So we will be talking about that today, and I'm really excited to hear your views. But first question that I ask all of my guests is, what does a business mindset mean to you?
It's a great question. Thinking about it for a second. To me, and this has evolved over time, this is where I am today. We're all on these personal journeys. I really believe that for me, and I could probably speak for my partner too, that having a mission that really excites us and then bringing value to not only, in our case, not only our clients, but all of our talent, our workforce, that in doing that in while growing, because if you're not growing, you're not creating opportunities for your people. That to me is a business mindset. How do we continually add more value? In our case, our mission is to help amazing companies and amazing talent fulfill their dreams. So that's what we're all about. And my mindset is all, how do we keep doing that? How do we keep doing that? How do we help more and more people do that? And in doing that, we're growing. But notice I didn't say revenue, because the revenue will follow, the growth will follow, the profits will follow. But for us, the mission is really important. It's what really motivates us to not just say that good is good enough, to always pursue excellence.
So how do you assess that mission? How working with great businesses, with great talent, how are you constantly trying to think about how you're measuring whether you're hitting your targets and getting your mission?
Three metrics. Metric number one. So the talent that works for our clients, 450 or so people at the time we're recording this, we call them the WBN certified professionals. So metric number one, how many WBN certified professionals are working with our clients, helping our clients grow their businesses? That's number one. Number two, and this is not in any particular order. Number two, what is our client NPS score? NPS is Net Promoter Score. Net Promoter Score is a measure of how likely they are to recommend us to their clients, to their friends as a service. And then third is our eNPS. So of our WBN certified professionals, how likely are they to refer us to a friend as a place to work? Really, those three tell us almost everything we know. And we happen to have world-class scores, and that's critical to us.
Yeah, and we'll cover all of that in this conversation, but I want to ask you another question. Tell me one thing about your upbringing which reflects on who you are today.
If I can nail it down to one thing, my dad was a business owner. I wouldn't really call him an entrepreneur. He earned his way into a business, worked hard. He's an immigrant. Both my parents, I'm a first generation American. And I one of the things I remember is meeting his accountants. And his accountants were buying other businesses. So I was exposed at an early age to this whole notion of business ownership, a little bit of entrepreneurship. My dad was reading Inc. magazines in the 80s. I was a kid. I was reading his Inc. magazines when I was a kid. I've been working since I was 13. And I had, I would say, just the typical middle class upbringing, just always had to work and a hardworking mentality. I took that into my first professional role as a CPA, as an accountant. You guys have the chartered accountants out on that side of the pond, where I had to work my butt off. During tax season, worked 100-hour weeks. And that actually helped shape my professionalism because I learned that there at one of the top firms in the world. So sorry, I went a little bit beyond your question,
No,
but
that's all right. I appreciate that.
that was my upbringing.
And I read that you were in college. You were doing concerts and things to be able to raise money. Do you think that was that the earliest stage of your entrepreneurial startings?
Concerts
And tell
wasn't
me
to raise
about it.
money. That was I was running the concert board of the school.
Okay.
So it was a non-paid position, but it was a great learning experience. I had a budget of $100,000. This is in the 80s when $100,000 was a lot of money.
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
booked and promoted acts like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Bob Dylan and Elvis Costello. And my whole workforce was volunteers. And we had to produce these concerts and we had to market them and all of that. So it was an amazing experience and a lot of fun. I do have regret that I didn't enjoy those concerts as much. I was too busy working the show as opposed to
Okay.
sitting back in some of the shows and enjoying them. I got a little bit of that, but not as much as I would have liked. But that was a fantastic as a 19, 20-year-old to be able to do that.
Mm.
It was just amazing.
That sounds great. Sounds fantastic. So let's move on. So you worked for a Big Six firm as a CPA. What was the driving force? Like, I'm assuming you had a settled job. You probably had a career progress going there. What meant that you wanted to start your own business? Were you always entrepreneurial?
I think I always was entrepreneurial. I had regular jobs in college, in the beginning, in high school. I didn't start my own business until 12 years after I started as an accountant. But funny enough, the accounting firm, a lot of my clients were entrepreneurs. So I got, they
Mm.
weren't all, but a lot of them were. And I got in there. I always knew in the back of my mind, whether it was going to be my own accounting firm, which I never went that road, or whatever it would be, I would ultimately own my own business. I always knew that. And again, maybe 12 years after graduating from college, finally started my own business, which was the New York Enterprise Report that you mentioned
Okay, so tell me about that. So when you started that, your first business, I want you to go back to was, so you had the idea and you were starting to formulate it. What was day one like at the New
earlier.
York Enterprise Report?
Before I get to day one, what got me over the edge to start my own business? And I was
Yeah.
in between being an accountant and starting my own business. I worked for three different businesses. First as a CFO, COO, and then a CEO. That last job, I was CEO of a U.S. subsidiary of a publicly traded UK, a small publicly traded UK company. And among other things, I found fraud in the business. And I went to the
Oh,
board and I said, hey guys, I have an idea of how we're going to fix this. And it was right after 9/11. And the board said to me, nope, we're not changing a thing. And I was like, whoa, I got to part ways with these guys. And I did. And I won't bore you with that story. But it was at that point I said, I'm never working for anybody again. And
right.
then I had to figure out what did I want to do. And I came up with this idea for, remember, this is back in 2003, a magazine, a website, and events for business owners so that we can bring best practices to them. Because the internet was not what it is today. Now you can just ask Chat
Mm.
GPT, how do I handle
Yeah.
this? And we didn't have that back then. And I wanted to bring subject matter experts to business owners. Funny enough, day one, I think I was in a coffee shop somewhere with a notepad, or maybe a laptop, and one of the things I did is I wanted to really have a great culture at the company because some of the companies I was working for, we didn't have a great culture. In fact, some of them was quite the opposite. And but now, oddly enough, and I recently spoke about this, oddly enough, once things started to pick up in the business, we got the website built, we're getting the magazine launched, we're going to do our first event. That whole idea of culture fell by the wayside. So we ended up with a culture by default and not by design. And that was something that over the years with different companies, particularly with Work Better Now, that I fixed.
So on culture, it's obviously a massive aspect of business, which probably 10, 15 years ago was discussed, but there was a culture. Like I worked for corporate for 14 years, and I started in 2007, and the culture in 2007 was very, very different to what it was 10 years later. A lot of the partners were alpha males, were very like, it was that sort of like you just had to survive and thrive in that sort of alpha culture. Now, over the years, female partners came in, they got higher responsibility, and it changed the ethos of the business, the internal ethos, not necessarily the external, because they still were trying to deliver amazing technology as well as accounting services. How for you, from those experiences, you mentioned about the fraud that they didn't pick up on or didn't work with, but how for you has culture within business changed since you've been a business owner?
So since I've been like a little over 20 years, I'll just I'll speak personally and then I guess in general, what you started to
Okay.
allude to. So I 10 years ago or so, I started to understand the importance of culture a lot more so than I did when I started my own business. And certainly do now now culture is the number one thing that's going to dictate our success. In fact, I'm literally looking at my other screen and there's a great quote by Peter Drucker says culture eats strategy for breakfast.
Yeah.
So culture was really important. In fact, my partner and I, when we were in a bar, coming up with deciding. Sorry for the noise. Somebody's doing work with the
Okay.
heating system here. Uh, when we were deciding to start the business, we came up with our first core value, which is we're going to put our talent first. And I won't bore you with the story behind that, but that was really our way of saying culture is going to be really important, and we're going to build a culture by design. And if we look at the marketplace in general, their culture is now more important. And I think it's more important for at least two reasons, maybe more, but two off the top of my head. Number one, the younger generations, the millennials, the Gen Zs, the culture is more important to them. So whatever you might say about them, certainly in the States, I'm not sure if it's the same in the UK, about how hard they work and all of that, it's important to them and
Yeah.
they're a big part of the workforce. So
Yeah.
for that reason, you have to pay more attention to culture. The other thing is your culture is now on public display, right? We have, I don't know if you guys have it in the UK, but here in the US, we have Glassdoor, which is a place where your employer brand is on display. What is it
Yeah.
like to work at Work Better Now or any other company? I always felt, not always, I would say over the past 10 years, maybe a little bit longer, that you should be treating your prospective employees like prospective customers. And therefore, for your prospective customers, your brand is important. For your prospective employees and your current employees, your employer brand is important. What is it? What do people think of your place as a place to work? It's really important these days. In fact, I would say it's even more important than your company brand. And like I said, it's now on display. So culture is going through a very transformative change right now.
And I've heard this from other people, but I think the quote of that your employees are more important than your clients, because you look after your employees and build a great culture, build a great atmosphere, they'll look after your clients.
Exactly right.
So why don't you tell me what Work Better Now is and when you started it and what you do?
Yeah. When we started, it was a little different. So 10 years ago, I remember seeing some demographic trends and projections. And it was something to the effect of that the workforce in the United States is aging, meaning there's not going to be enough people to do work in the United States as there is going to be for a job demand. And we're certainly experiencing that. There's tons of
Yeah.
statistics on that. If we also go back 10 years ago, I got my big change in my life when I got my first assistant and changed my life. I I was actually a lot more productive because I was focused on my unique ability, giving almost all of my non-unique ability tasks to my assistant. I had more free time for my family, for friends, for doing stuff I wanted to do, for focusing on things in the business that I wanted to focus on, as opposed to things that I had to do that didn't really drive a lot of value. And because I had this magazine that was read by 100,000 business owners and leaders, I know a lot of business owners, and a lot of them were asking me about my assistant. They knew she wasn't in the office. And I said, she's in El Salvador. And they said, how do I get somebody like that? I was referring them to the business that she was working for.
Right.
Fast forward, and I'm skipping a few steps, but fast forward to 2018, and I'm on a business trip, different business on the West Coast. And then one of my college buddies lives in LA. I'm here in New York. And I said, why don't you meet me in Portland, Oregon? I have 2 hours of meetings, an hour each day. I got plenty of time. Why don't you come up and we'll sample the best of Portland? And he did. And we're at a bar, as we often are. And I said, I'm going to start this business to provide assistance for business owners from Latin. I'm going to provide the assistance from Latin America for U.S. based business owners. And he says, I'm going to do it with you. And I said, great, let's do it. And then I said, what's you got to agree to right now is we're going to put our talent first. And he agreed. And that was essentially our first core value. So when we first started, we were just providing assistance to business owners because we believe every business owner should have an assistant. And I can talk about that for why that's important and how exponential of a change that can make in not only a business owner's life, but in his or her business. I could talk about that for days. What happened several years, maybe 2.5 years in or so, is one of our clients, I wasn't too involved in the operations of the business. My partner was dealing with that. I saw that one of our clients had 4 people, and I called, it was a friend of mine, and I said, how many assistants do you need? And he goes, no, that first assistant we hired, she's great at selling. So we put her in an inside sales role. She helped us hire the next one. And it turned out that one was great at marketing, and so on and so forth. And then I noticed we had a few other clients doing the same thing. And then we pretty much pivoted within a month. And we now provide over 40 different roles. We don't call it outsourcing, by the way. Outsourcing is
Okay.
when you're outsourcing a responsibility to another company. Think of like call centers.
Yeah.
But you can outsource other things too. What our clients are doing working with us is, they're working with a talent partner that takes care of just a lot of the process that doesn't drive, that they're not necessarily good at. But really what they're doing is they're offshoring, right? And in our case, nearshoring.
Yeah.
So now we provide over 40 roles in 5 buckets: sales, marketing, administrative, including assistance, customer service, and finance and bookkeeping.
So pricing wise, because I'm sure there's some of my listeners and viewers that are thinking, okay, so we've heard of the Filipino VA assistants that help us. I know certain parts of Africa, Nigeria and South Africa, doing these types of roles as well. What is the sort of pricing level in comparison? Is it a third less? Is it half less on the sort of fees that you would be charging for a person working for you?
Compared to the US?
Just to compare to the US, yeah.
Yeah. First of all, when maybe not so much in the beginning, but now when people are coming to us, when our clients are coming to us, they're coming to us because they want great talent. Mm. The fact that they're saving money, which I'll get into in a second, is the bonus. But that's right. And we're now really trying to educate the market on that. We're going to get you people that it's just really hard to find here. When you can find them here, they're typically saving 50 to 65%, particularly when you look at it at an all-in cost. And again, they're finding talent that they're just not able to find here, not only in terms of experience, but work ethic, attitude, etc.
So so it's about 60% you're making a saving on hiring a US equivalent.
Yeah, on average, yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So what you mentioned earlier about an assistant. So I have people that I outsource work to that works in various aspects of the podcast and the businesses that I run. I don't have a personal assistant, right? Just one person that's helping me with every aspect of the business and administrative and also extra things like that. Why do I need an assistant? Tell me why.
First of all, my assistant doesn't just help me with business related tasks. My assistant helps
Okay.
me with personal related tasks. And not only my personal related tasks. So literally over the past 24 hours, among the many business things that my assistant is doing for me and for the company, he's also helping me with my own travel plans. I just found out I'm a Dead and Company fan. If you see, it's a
Yep.
Dead cover there, and they just announced some shows in Las Vegas. So we're getting on hotel and air and all of that stuff. On top of that, my dad and his wife are planning a trip to Vegas. They're a little older. They're not as adept as a lot of us on the internet, and so they need help with some travel plans. So I have him looking into that. Doctor's appointments, things like that. But here's the point I really want to drive. I, for me, in my business, I'm the visionary, right? My partner's the integrator, meaning I'm the strategy person. I'm the person who does the podcast. I'm writing the book. I'm thinking about high level stuff. I'm thinking about how we have a very changing world. The business world, the pace of change is like insane right
Mm,
now. It's only going to get
mm.
more insane. I'm
Yeah,
the
yeah,
person in the company. My value is in figuring out how does that affect us? How does that affect our clients? What changes do we need to make, et cetera. I should be spending 80% of my time in that world. If I'm doing anything administrative, I'm probably not spending 80% of my time. And the more time I spend in that world doing those
mm,
things, the faster our company's going to grow. And
yeah,
it's the same for my partner, just because he's on the operational side, maybe even more so. When he's focused on what he needs to do, working with his direct reports, helping lead the company that way, making sure that
yeah,
they're managing their people, they're leading their people, that operationally we're doing all the things we need to do. When he's in that zone and not doing administrative things, personal or professional, we're going to grow faster.
mm,
And the average business owner is spending 20% of their time. You got to flip that.
right.
And you can't do that when you're doing administrative type things. And by the way, administrative is a very broad topic. But again, think
Yes,
about it more as anything that is not within your unique ability. Those things that
yeah,
you are uniquely good at that drive massive value for your company.
yeah, amazing. So you now support 40 different functions. Tell me about the different areas that your talent helps clients with. What does it cover?
It's the 5 buckets. I'll give you some examples just to make it a little bit more real. I'll give you 2 examples there. One, some of our clients hire WBN certified professionals to do inside sales. In fact, that company that I mentioned, a friend of mine, he's got a messenger service here in New York, one of the bigger ones, and he never had inside sales before. Forgot, and I'm not sure if he was doing it or somebody else was doing it, but they're now generating. The person he has from us is now generating over $500,000 in additional revenue with that inside sales role. We just hired somebody to be a sales assistant so that our salespeople are focused on the client and not on all of we use HubSpot. There's like a lot of things you got to do
Mm,
after a
yeah,
call, after a client hires somebody, etc. They don't need to do that. We got an assistant. So that's the sales bucket. Marketing, huge. So our people are doing social media for their clients. They're doing SEO work, so on and so forth, tracking media buys. And then there's the customer service bucket. That goes without saying, customer service reps, finance and admin, doing bookkeeping support, QuickBooks, or maybe they're doing accounts receivable collection. And then the last bucket is administrative, in particular, executive assistants. And we're seeing more and more clients hiring assistants to support a department. So I have a friend of mine who's a client. He has a construction firm here in New York, and estimators. These are the people who are generating the bids, and you have to
mm,
generate a
mm,
lot of bids to get business.
mm.
Estimators are very hard to come by. They're very expensive. He hired an assistant to support the estimators so that again they can focus on their unique.
That's incredible. So I believe, and I've talked about this many times, that hiring and firing are the hardest things for a business owner.
Yeah.
Now, how, maybe give me one way that a client that you work with has done the onboarding, because I believe when you're hiring, the onboarding side is the most important place. Like you can get the best candidate with all the skills, all the qualifications, but you need to be onboarded into that company. Maybe give me an example of a company that's done it very well, and maybe you don't have to say a particular kind, but you maybe say give me another example of where people have done it particularly badly.
Yeah, I will. Let's just back up. Small businesses, small mid-sized businesses, and hiring. In general, let's remember don't they're not good at it. Really not
Mm,
good at it. And they don't enjoy it. And we take a lot of that process away
right.
from them because we have this amazing pool of people that have gone through a very rigorous screening process. And then we have this whole precision match process. Beyond the client, it's a really terrific question. The clients that do onboarding right, whether it's somebody that they're hiring from us or anybody else, particularly a remote person, but even somebody in the office, onboarding is so important. And you're right, most companies don't think about it and think enough about it, and they certainly don't do it right. Companies who do it best, um, they make that incoming employees first day an amazing experience, right? If there's any paperwork, let's do that before. Okay. Hopefully it's all electronic these days, right? Let's do that before. Let's not muck up that first day with
Mm,
paperwork and stuff like that, right? We'll introduce them to as many people. Maybe it's not the first day, but over the first few days in the company as possible, particularly department heads or somebody from each department. So they know who do they go to for certain different things. Let's also make sure hey, here's the systems we use. Here's some training materials. Here's some videos you can watch. Empower them to know what are the tools. By the way, not only what are the tools, but how do we communicate here? We have chat, we have email, we have phone, we have Zoom, we have all of these things. When do we as a company use these different things?
mm,
Let's be clear about what your role is. Okay. What is your role and here's my best way of describing to somebody what their role is, or at least as part of it. When you're doing your job great, this is what it looks like. Okay. Here's some things to stay away from,
mm.
right? Here's some things not to do, right? Here's some things that they're just, when this happens, it's not good. So let's tell people about these things up front. Our company, we use Microsoft Teams. And when somebody new it comes into the company, all of our employees, not the 450 people working for our clients, but our team, about 40 or so
Mm,
people, everybody welcomes them. And by the
nice.
way, we don't tell them to do that. That's just part of the
Mm,
culture. Everybody welcomes them. We do announce, hey, we have a new person starting today. So what we want is when now all of our people are working remotely in their homes throughout Latin America and a few in the United States. And what we want is if they have a significant another at home or whatever it is, we want them to, at the end of their first day, to go, this company's freaking amazing. This is the best decision I made in my entire life. That's what we're going for.
and I think that's an amazing way, because the jobs that I've started, there's been good experiences and bad experiences of that. And I think the meeting lots of people and having a buddy, a person that you can go to if you've got
Mentor.
any of those sorts of questions, is really powerful. So we definitely try and do that when we're hiring people. So not your offshore people, but the people in your company. How do you keep your best people? So we've onboarded, they've been working here for your company for 2 or 3 years. How do you keep your best talent? What strategies do you use to do that?
Yeah. First of all, 80% of our team is in Latin America, even the people working
Okay.
for us, right?
Okay.
There's only a few of us here in the States, 6 or 7, including my partner and I. So it comes back to what we talked about earlier. It comes down back to, we created a culture by design. Growth is a big part of it. In addition to culture, the reason I said growth is a big part of it is if the company is growing, then the opportunities for growth in a company continue
Mm,
continue to grow.
mm,
Right? There's plenty of opportunities for people to grow within the company.
yeah.
People leave. Why do people leave? People leave for bad managers, or for more money, and we always aim to pay well above the market. People also leave because there's no growth opportunities. Hey, I want to go to that next level in
Yes.
my career, and if I can't do it here, then I have to go elsewhere. And a growth is a big part of how we're able to keep our amazing workforce.
Yeah, 100% agree. Pay, bad managers or bad bosses, and development opportunities, I think, are the most critical. I would probably argue that like some people might not, some people chase the dollar or the pound, but that idea of developing in your role, doing different things, learning to build your scope of what you do larger, I think for me personally was really powerful for staying at places, because I felt I was moving forward in the organization, and therefore there was more opportunities in the future.
And culture is really important too, particularly with the younger workforce. They will stay somewhere maybe for a little bit less money if it's a more enjoyable place to work. It's
100%.
becoming more important than ever, really, before.
Yeah. Yeah, I 100% agree. So flipping to your the people, the offshore that you work with, what typically is the length of their contracts?
No contracts. We don't believe in contracts.
So they
How long are
what
they? How
they
long are they
join a
staying?
how long are they staying? Either or mainly because mainly from what the business requirements for that person. Are you finding that people stay maybe for a year or two, or is it even longer than that? Like, what's the sort of scope, or what's the sort of growth that people find that they your offshore people that are staying in companies for?
Yeah, that are working for our clients. Yeah, because we are still in a very high rate of growth, it's very hard to come up with an average. But we did just look a few months ago, and I think we found that like 30% of our certified professionals have been working for their clients for over 2 years, and we were blown away by that
Right.
number because I
Yeah,
think that exceeds the averages of the
right.
workforce here in the states. I think, and then there was a very big tranche over a year, and we're very happy with our retention rates, and so are our clients. It doesn't
Mm,
mean that people don't leave. And by the way, a little bit of attrition is always good, right? Because not
mm,
everybody is right for every seat and stuff. But we're very happy with the tenure level of our certified
right.
professionals, and certainly of our
Amazing.
workforce here as well.
Your clients, how do you acquire your clients? What marketing and sales processes do you use to acquire
Yeah,
clients?
I'm laughing, I'm smiling and grinning for a reason. So, and we're a very high growth company. We were 114 on this year's Inc. 5000 list. And to date, it's been 95% from referrals. On the one hand, that's amazing, right? Because again, that NPS score, that's the NPS score in action. We're clients. And then we also have other people who aren't clients, like EOS implementers and Vistage chairs, et cetera, who refer into us. We're just very referable because almost everybody's just thrilled with what we provide. Our biggest challenge has been going beyond referrals. And we've gone through a number of different ad agencies, et cetera, but we're finishing up some plans right now that we'll be rolling out next year, really to leverage the community. A big part of it will be to leverage the communities that our clients are in. So a good example is we have a client in the stone and tile business,
Okay.
and they are part of a nationwide business organization. You're gonna love this one, called Rockheads. It's a great name. And so this is a client. He happens to be a very good friend of my partner. He said, "You guys should sponsor and come and speak. We're going to be at, I forgot where we went, to Kansas City or something like that. Maybe it was Nashville." And we sponsored. It wasn't a lot of money. We flew out. Our time is actually quite valuable, and we didn't really have high expectations. And I spoke maybe for 10 minutes. And it's great when you have a client in the room, because then when somebody goes, "How good is the offshore?" Don't ask me, ask so and so, and gotten, I think, over $500,000 of business out of that
Wow.
point.
From that
And
event only.
that, and maybe we did a couple of future events. And now we just get referrals without even showing up to events, because, again, it started with one client bringing us into their community.
Yeah.
And from there, it just grows. There's a few other things that we plan on rolling out, but referrals has been our lifeblood.
That's so interesting, because referrals and testimonials are the things that a lot of businesses don't leverage enough. They're always chasing a Facebook ad, a Google ad, so organic social website SEO. They often don't think of having those conversations with their clients about referrals. It actually does, it says a huge amount about your business that you're getting the majority of your business with referrals, because people are recommending you, are referring you to their friends, their colleagues, their peers. I think it says a really huge thing about your business, like massive props for doing that.
Thank you. And we've been more passive than not in getting the referrals.
Okay.
That's another thing that we're working on now, is being a little bit more proactive in asking for
Yeah, absolutely. What does your sales process look like? I assume, is it offshored as well?
referrals. No, currently our what we call our client consultants, our inside salespeople, they're all in the United States. And I created the initial sales process. Then my partner, who did the initial sales, perfected it, and we wanted it to make it. We wanted to make it very brief. We didn't want to make it about us, and we wanted to make it very productive. It's 20 minutes. It can go longer. We're going to give a very quick overview of what we do. If somebody came to us from a referral, we don't have a PowerPoint deck with slides about us, because that's not what's important. Let's talk about you. What do you need? What do you have a job description? What role are you trying to fill? What questions do you have? Let's go beyond the job description. What kind of attributes do you want in a person? So we're collecting all the information that we need to give over to the recruiting department that uses our precision match process that provides 3 candidates that are perfect for each role. But that sales process is about 20 minutes. And compare that, and then again, sorry, if I go to the next step, the prospective client then interviews those 3 hand selected candidates, and then chooses, more often than not, chooses at least one. And then 4 days later, they're working for they now have their latest employee. Compare that to the traditional hiring process, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I got to put a job posting up. Okay, I got to do that. I got to get in all of these applications, right? By the way, our recruiting department does that on our end. And I got to sort through them. I don't really know what I'm doing in terms of what am I looking for. Maybe now I'm using some technology to help me identify resumes that are a good match. And then I got to do my assessments and then interviews. And then that LinkedIn says that whole process takes about 45 days and a lot of headaches.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. How do you think you've evolved as a leader?
The biggest, for me personally, the biggest breakthrough happened a couple of years ago, and there were two things that led to that breakthrough. One is we got on EOS, and EOS has this visionary integrator model. And my partner and I knew right away, like, all right, I'm the visionary, he's the integrator. He's great at that stuff and working with people, and I'm great at that visionary stuff and knowing where the market's going to go. And that was very freeing for me. That combined with the book Who Not How from Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
What's the book called again?
Who Not How. Game-changing book for me. That and another book that the two of them wrote is 10x is easier than 2x. But going back to Who Not How, and Dan Sullivan's thinking, and I'm a client of Strategic Coach, which is Dan Sullivan's organization, was between that and the visionary concept was just very empowering for me. It said it's okay, and not only is it okay, it's preferred for me to do the visionary stuff and not have to do with all of that other stuff that I don't like doing. Yeah, I could be good at it at times, but it's not really within my zone of genius, if you will.
Yeah.
So that has been by far the biggest evolution. I'm happier. I'm not doing work that I don't like. I'm adding a lot more value to the company. It's been a game changer.
Amazing. I was going to mention about EOS because we've had some EOS practitioners and that have been on my show, and also people that have spoken have absolutely raved about how impactful it has been on their business, and how they've been able to grow really solidly with that framework around them. Do you have a practitioner that works with you, or have you been trained in it?
our EOS implementer, a guy named Michael Deutsch here in New York, he, in the first year, was it just, I think, a year, he did our kickoff and he trained us. We have an internal EOS czar at the company. Um, and he did the quarterly meetings, and then we graduated, and now he works with us once a year. We just did it earlier this week. Two
Right.
8-hour sessions, 2 8-hour Zoom calls doing our annual planning meeting. So he still works with us, but only now once a year, in addition to going to him when we have questions and stuff.
Sure. What's been your biggest challenge, either professionally or personally?
Professional, I'll answer that on a professional level. It's been, how do we go beyond referrals? We've gone through 5 ad agencies and none of them produced anything for us. I think we're now realizing that because all of those agencies did traditional types of things, that doesn't work for us. We have to do non-traditional ways of marketing. And again, it's not only just leveraging our clients' communities, but we have a few other things that we plan on rolling out, including the publishing of the book that I'm writing, which will be early 2020.
Been on podcasts as well.
And appearing on podcasts, and we're launching our own podcast. And we have some really good ideas that I think are non-traditional, but that's been our biggest challenge so far, is five marketing / ad agencies, all of them highly recommended. Some are run by people I know and have known for a long time. Nobody was able to produce. And we know it's not a sales issue, because we convert anything we convert at a very high rate. Obviously, our clients there's product market fit. It's just what we sell, how we sell it, and how people buy that. And it's just a disconnect with traditional marketing.
What would you say your risk appetite is?
I think we are very aggressive, calculated risk takers. We have no problems trying new stuff. All 5 ad agencies, but we have no problems trying new stuff all the time. But we're not going to try something new just for the sake of trying something new. And we're going to really think it through. We're going to put it through an informal process for sure. And the beautiful thing about having a business partner who's very different than I am is bounce things off of each other. He's won a World Series of poker bracelet. He knows more about risk than I'll ever know.
Amazing. So why don't you tell me about the partnership? Because some entrepreneurs that I've had on my show have been, it's my role to be the founder, the owner, the CEO, and grow the business. And then other people have said it's so much more enjoyable having someone as a business partner to, as you say, bounce ideas off, to grow together, to develop your business. What's your view on partnering with, not just, you could speak about your specific business partner now, but the idea of business partners versus going on your own?
Yeah, because I've done both. My personal experience is having a partner has been a lot more fun, enjoyable, and this is by far the best company that I've ever started. There's been other companies I've been involved with as a junior partner that were a little bigger, but we'll surpass those metrics. My business partner is somebody I've known for now 36 years, ever since college.
Okay.
So we knew each other really well. And what I realized is having the same core values goes a long way. We're going to disagree on stuff, of course. We're going to have different perspectives on stuff. But having the same core values, we want the same thing. For us, quality is important, and taking care of our people is important. And when you have that, then you can get through the tough issues. And of course, again, bouncing things off of each other is very powerful. Really, what we're also doing is dividing and conquering. He's the integrator, I'm the visionary. We cross over all the time, but we have those roles. For people in general, I think there's a few things to consider. If you're going to get a partner that complements you, but you don't have to get a partner to complement you. What I mean by that is you can hire people who have complementary abilities, and you don't have to bring on a partner, because bringing on a partner is a lot. Forget about the financial side of things and splitting the spoils. What happens when you disagree on a big issue? You have to be prepared for that. You got to talk about that in advance. You got to figure that out in advance. My partner and I are 50-50. When it was my idea, and we then decided to work together, I didn't have to start with him at I elected to do so because we've been friends for a long time. I would actually suggest to most people that if you are going to bring a partner on, don't make it 50-50. Make sure you have the majority interest, at least to start with, in case there's a difference of opinion. It's a little easier to deal with things that way. But again, you may
Yeah,
not need a partner. You can complement yourself with, um, so you can surround yourself with complementary people.
yeah, absolutely. Um, Look, we're coming to the end of the interview. Ask the same 6 questions to all my guests. So quick fire questions. They don't need a quick fire answer. First question is, what's the best decision that you've made?
Bringing my friend on as a partner has been the best decision because I think if I didn't, this business would be here. We wouldn't have grown nearly as well, and it would have been much, much harder on me as well. So, hands down, partnering with Andrew.
Great. What's the best piece of advice you've been given?
So many things. It's impossible to tell you what's the best. That said, one of the biggest pieces of advice, and I got this from two different OGs, if you will, different ways. Jack Daly, who's an amazing entrepreneur and speaker, and Norm Brodsky, legendary entrepreneur, two good friends of mine, and they both talked about in different ways building a culture by design, and that I didn't when I first heard that from each of them probably 15 years ago. I don't think I appreciated it. Now I understand that that's huge driver of our success.
Amazing. Who's the person that's helped you most in your career?
I don't think it's been a person. There's been many people. I think being involved in different business organizations, peer groups. So I'm in Vistage. I'm a strategic coach client in conferences. Being in groups with other CEOs, other entrepreneurs. That to me has been amazingly helpful, both for personal and emotional support when you need it, because you can't go to your spouse sometimes with this stuff, and people who are not business owners don't understand this. I used to have a business that helped large companies market to small business, some of the largest companies in the world. And one of the things I would do when I would present to some of them, hired me to explain the small business market to them, is I would say, you could be sitting at a table with two business owners and they're speaking English, but you're not going to follow what they're saying. So you need that camaraderie as well as the experience share that you get from other business owners.
Amazing. Tell me about a regret that you have.
Yeah, good one. So I talked about, or you mentioned the New York Enterprise Report, this media company for business owners I had. It started a little over 20 years ago. That seemed like a very successful company, and I'm still benefiting from it today in so many different ways. It was not very financially successful. I should have exited that business probably 5 years earlier.
Right. It would have
I don't
been
know if
in a
I've ever.
better.
I don't know if I've ever said that before publicly. So you heard it here first.
Okay, that is exclusive for us. Thank you for sharing that. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of how we are helping both our talent and our clients with their mission. Our mission, again, is to help amazing talent and amazing companies fulfill their dreams. That is by far the thing I'm most proud of. That I'm friends with a lot of our clients. I know them, some of them for many years, some of them for a few years. And I just remember grabbing a drink with one of them maybe 3 months ago. The guy who has the construction business, a few blocks from me here in Bryant Park in Manhattan. And he started showing me on his phone something that his assistant had done for him. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And he grabs my arm and he goes, Rob, this wasn't cool. This was fucking amazing. This is changing my life. And I was like, cool. I'll buy the next round. Thank you. That's awesome.
Brilliant. Um, Tell me one thing. Tell me something that not many people know about you.
I just told you one about a regret, and you know about the concerts that I produced. The other one is I've seen over 1,000 concerts.
You've seen over 1,000 gigs.
Yeah, yeah. If you include,
Wow,
because I go to Jazz Fest in New Orleans every year, if you include those as individuals, I'm well over 1,000.
wow. And I can see behind you, you've got Eric Clapton. big
That's a
fan.
shot from
So,
London. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm a
There's a
big
lot
fan.
more. There's a whole bunch back here, and you just
Oh,
get
amazing. Are they vinyls? Are they vinyls or are
no,
they posted?
no. These are actually album covers that were blown up. Instead of 12 by 12, they're 16 by 16.
Oh,
But
great.
that's the
Fantastic.
idea.
And you play the guitar as well?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Do you play? Do you do concerts or is it more just for personal?
Last concert, I'm actually having lunch with my buddy who was the drummer, another entrepreneur. Last concert was probably 11 years ago. So we're now talking about jamming again in January. Same four of us.
Nice.
So you never know. We'll see.
Yeah, amazing. And what does legacy mean to you?
You could do this personally or professionally. I guess the way I would answer that is I want to be known as on the business side as an entrepreneur who was successful, plenty of ups and downs, but who really made a big impact on other entrepreneurs in a number of different ways, making an impact.
Yeah, amazing. And lastly, where can people find you if they want to find out more about you and your business?
Workbetternow.com. You can find out about us, and we have a lot of cool content up on there and there'll be information there in a couple of months about the book as well. I don't remember the URL for the book because we haven't launched it yet.
So what's the book going to be about?
The book is the main title is going to be the New Talent Playbook. And it's how business owners really need to rethink talent and what they need to do, what they need to be doing going forward. And then you can find me on LinkedIn. I think it's under Robert S. Levin, even though I go by Rob Levin more these days. Not too hard to find. So LinkedIn's the best place to find me, and workbetternow.com.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Rob. Thank you so much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you and learning about this idea of offshoring rather than outsourcing,
Yeah.
which is a very distinct difference. So that's been very revealing to me. So thank you so much for your time today. Have a lovely day and thanks a lot.
I really enjoyed our conversation, Mark. Thanks for having me.
Great. I really hope you've enjoyed that content. It's a really fascinating interview that I've done there. So please do, if you are enjoying this content, please do give it a like. Please do give a subscribe. It'd be really good to boost the subscriptions. It really makes a difference to the algorithm in YouTube. So thank you for that. If you do hit subscribe, hit the bell icon and you'll get all of the content. You'll get notified when all the content is available. Thank you so much for your time. It's really appreciated. Thanks a lot.